All right, good morning, everyone. It is Monday, March 15th, 9:03 a.m. Sorry for the delay. I appreciate everyone being on the call this morning. As you know, we do this every Monday morning, and we do it for you. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any topics or ideas that you want to hear on this call, don't forget that this call is for you. So you can shoot me a text message, email, phone call, pigeon messenger, whatever it takes. I am glad to get some topics to talk about. So anything that you think would be helpful, of course, I've got some great ideas, but if you think of something that would help you out in the field to make more money so you can be quicker, faster, stronger, and better as an agent, please let me know. I am all about that. So first thing this morning, obviously we've got some training that's popping up here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the training calendar. And as a reminder, guys, if you don't have the training calendar, it is best to get with John or someone with the team to ensure that you do have the training calendar ready set for the week, because as the year starts to slow down, this is a good time for you to get ready and set for both lock-in and the rest of the year for training, and especially because AEP 2022 is going to sneak up on you, and you don't want to be rushing to get things done, especially with all the new technology and the different pieces that are rolling out year after year. But believe it or not, in less than 3 months, the 2022 AHIP is going to arrive. So, let's use our time wisely, get the trainings done, and so you're fast and familiar with all the things that are going to be happening for you. So the first thing for the trainings this week is this morning, at 11 o'clock, Devoted is going to do their coffee and chat session. Again, this is designed for anyone that has questions or concerns or maybe needs a little bit of support on Devoted. They will be available. This is for the Orlando market. However, anyone selling Devoted is welcome. Tomorrow is March 16th. We will be doing an ACA training. I'll be doing a live session from beautiful Tampa, Florida. So we do have a link in there. If you want to go ahead and click on the link, you can visit online. So if you're interested in learning about ACA, we're here to help you with that. At 10:30 tomorrow, Bright Health is doing their individual and family plans, their SCP Blitz bonus. They're doing a bonus session, so there's a session on that if you want to learn about how that bonus works and what they're doing to gain business and traction in the ACA market. Again, that's tomorrow at 10:30. At 11 tomorrow, Cigna is doing a training on how to reach your clients with Benefits Checkup. And those of you that have bumped into me in the last couple of weeks, I have been adamant about learning how to use Benefits Checkup. In fact, I think I'm going to do a whole video on just the value add that you can bring to your clients. And there's some really great ideas here, but the key core thing that you have to remember that has been a success for me and for those agents that really take this to heart, you are a community service person. You are a community service organization. And we need to go out there and help people. And it doesn't always translate to money right away. But if you're helping people apply for Medicaid, if you're helping people apply for veteran benefits, if you're helping people connect with housing, utilities, food distribution, these are all key things that people are really going to gravitate towards you, and you're going to get leads like nobody's business. But it's really about that core value is we are here to help our community. We are here to help those that are truly in need, especially our seniors, but there are many more out there that really need our help. Last Friday we did an incredible event out in Lake County, and I was really proud to hear that there was over 50 people that were served with food and groceries from the activities that our team has put together, and just really, really proud of the team on helping our community. And yes, there were leads, and yes, there will be sales from those types of events, but these are the things that really, truly matter and can make a difference. So learn Benefits Checkup. All right, tomorrow also, Tuesday, March 16th, Devoted is doing an open training session. So the link is in the training calendar. You can pop in there at 11 o'clock. It should be just about an hour. Moving on to Wednesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. There's only one training on there on Wednesday, and that is from Humana. Humana is doing a training on how to attract and retain members using Go365. Really great program for rewards, so please take a look at that. Again, that's Wednesday at noon. And then Thursday, 10:30, Bright Health is doing that Broker Blitz session. It's that bonus program, this time in Spanish. Se habla español. There you go, at 10:30 on Thursday. Also on Thursday at 10:30, Cigna is doing a training session on their D-SNP products. Very important. Remember, this is a 5-star plan. However, they do have a D-SNP, and it's pretty competitive. So take a look at that and make sure you know what you're doing. Also on Thursday at 11:30, Devoted is doing another coffee and chat session, this time for the Jacksonville market. Again, anywhere you are that you sell Devoted, they're glad to talk to you about details about how Devoted works. Thursday as well at 11 a.m., Humana is doing their veterans training. Very, very, very great training. The leaders in veterans marketing and training sessions. They're going to cover VA, TRICARE, and CHAMP VA. So if you're shaky on what those terms mean, join that session at 11 on Thursday. Also on Thursday, Humana is doing a Silver Sneakers training. They're going to talk about their gym membership for the community and what that means to train from home for your members. So great little sneak peek on what to do there for Silver Sneakers. That's Thursday at noon. And then last training of the week, this is another training session by yours truly. I'll be hosting the Medicare sales process training. I've been getting a lot of feedback on skipping steps or getting confused in the process. And even if you're a veteran, this might be good for you to jump on there just to make sure you're doing everything the right way and realizing the tools and resources that we have in order to make the process of selling a lot easier and smoother for you. So I will be doing that. This is a remote training from 2 o'clock to about 3 o'clock. And again, this is from start to finish. You know, I have a Medicare lead and all the way into the enrollment and follow-up process. So that is on Thursday at 2 o'clock. If you can join one training, I'd love for you to be online. All right, so that's the training for the week. Again, if you don't have the training calendar, please make sure you reach out to a team member and we'll get you connected so that way you know what's going on so you can be quicker, faster, stronger, and smarter throughout the week. All right, so updates here. What's going on out there in the world? So, you know, obviously COVID is still a big topic here. And, you know, many of the companies have been putting out notices about whether or not COVID shots, vaccines are covered. And for the most part, all the carriers are covering the vaccines now and the treatments for the vaccine. However, the question comes up is what happens if your member is hospitalized due to COVID? And unfortunately, there is no special carve-out for hospitalizations for COVID, which means if your member does have a copay on their hospitalization, they will have to make sure that they have some type of coverage, you know, for COVID and making sure that they know what their copays are. So another reason why you want to talk to your members about making sure that they have the right coverage, especially for hospitalizations, because that is a big lift there. And remember, we often talk about the copays as being low. But one thing that I see members missing is what is the maximum out of pocket for the year? And that key is critical. And some plans are still up there at the $6,700 range. And then you've got copay or maximum out of pockets, which some dip right at the $3,000 or even lower than that. And what does that mean? It means that even on the worst year, that safety net, which is that maximum out of pocket, that safety net, if it's only about $3,000, then the member pays no more than $3,000 for the whole year in copays and out-of-pocket expenses. And that's outside of medicine. That they have their own safety net. But please make sure that you're reviewing your members' coverage, especially if they're very concerned about hospitalizations. This is a key critical point because, you know, there is no special carve-out for, you know, I have COVID and I'm going to the hospital. It's still a hospitalization. It's still the same copay. You're still going to have the same type benefits, but what does a hospitalization really look like for a member financially? So take a look at that and make sure that you review that coverage part. And I think the two parts to really keep in mind again is, what is the out-of-pocket copay? You know, do I pay for the first 3 days, the first 10 days? And then what is that maximum out-of-pocket? You know, what if I'm there for 3 months? I mean, some of these people, you know, bless them, but you know, they're there for a while, and so would that wipe them out financially, or they go back into the hospital? And so these are things that you have to really keep in mind when you're offering a plan and you know, doing that review and that consultation. All right. So also announcement: one of the larger MSOs, doctor groups that is here in Orlando, Family Physicians Group, is finally doing a rebranding, a rename, and they will now be called CenterWell. And as a reminder, a few years back, Family Physicians Group was purchased by an organization that is owned by Humana, and Humana has consolidated many of their doctors' offices nationwide. So they're in several states now with this new entity that they are now calling CenterWell. So you'll see a rebrand out there, CenterWell. What is CenterWell? Well, basically, CenterWell is taking over the FPG. It is FPG. They're just doing a rebrand. And so just to kind of explain what CenterWell is and their value adds, I know many of you have lots and lots of clients at FPG, and I know that you might be a little nervous, like, what does this mean for my members? Are they going to get additional benefits? Are the doctors changing? You know, what additional services are they bringing? So they have sent out a on-demand webinar that you can watch, and they are giving you a free $15 Amazon gift card for watching the on-demand webinar. You just register, and then they'll send you out a $15 Amazon gift card just for watching the on-demand webinar, which, if I had members at the clinic, I'd do it for free just because I want to know what's going on. Because the next phone call that you'll get is from a member that says, hey, what's going on with this transition? Why is FPG going to CenterWell? Or who bought what and what's going on? So knowledge is power. It's really important for you to understand what's going on out there. They do have marketing reps, which is a fantastic ability to grow your business, so you want to connect with them anyway. But that's happening. If you did not get an email from CenterWell FPG, please let us know, because there is a $15 Amazon card waiting for you just to watch the on-demand webinar. I think it's less than an hour, and you can go on there and just watch the webinar and get up to date on what's going on with them. All right, a little bit of context before we move into some sales tips and ideas here for marketing this morning. We are running, HPM is running a contest to reimburse you for marketing for all of your Bright Health sales. So Medicare Bright Health sales. If you have a Medicare Bright Health sale for a 4/1 effective, we still have half a month to get out there and help people with Bright Health. We've got a $50 per app marketing reimbursement fund that you can use towards your mailers to reimburse you for anything that it costs you to do marketing. So $50 for every app that's turned in for a 4/1 effective, and so that's moving, you know, from today forward. So, you know, go out there. If Bright Health's a great fit, you've got some marketing dollars behind that to help you out and reimburse you on what you're doing to grow your business. So with that, I am going to pop open a short video on some phone sales tips. And one of the things that that really worked for me throughout my selling career was being on the phone. And sometimes it's a little scary. Sometimes you don't know what to do. And when I talk to a lot of you don't have a strategy for being on the phone, and that can be very dangerous. And so I found a video from one of the guys that I really like, Mark Wayshak, and he's going to talk to us about 9 really easy phone sales tips to really get the blood flowing and really to help you with leads. Because whatever you do out there, whether you're calling your clients or your lost clients, or, you know, maybe a T65 campaign, or whatever it is that you are working on, You need to be on the phone, and now more than ever. So I just want to go back and cover the basics and make sure that everybody understands, some really good sales tips on how to be on the phone and sell. All right, so here we go.
Do you find yourself using the phone less in selling? Regardless of your answer, many of your competitors are saying yes to that question. Fewer salespeople are actually picking up the phone and truly calling prospects. And this is your opportunity to stand out. The phone is still one of the most powerful tools that we salespeople have in our arsenal. Whether you're cold calling as part of a prospecting campaign, following up on referrals, or calling established clients, the approach really shouldn't change that much. But what you do in those calls really, really matters. In fact, the data suggests that over 2/3 of salespeople are actually doing things in the selling situation that actively hurts the sales. Don't let this be you. Plus, in a world where more than half of a salesperson's day is spent not actually selling, the phone becomes more and more distant for so many. In this video, I'm going to show you 9 really easy phone sales tips to close way more sales. Check it out. Number 1, don't wait to get motivated. Just pick up the phone. I remember when I first started selling, and I would have to make around 50 to 100 dials every single day. I'll never forget the feeling in those first couple of weeks, how heavy that phone actually felt. And so I would come up with every single possible excuse that I possibly could to not pick up that phone. I would go get that extra cup of coffee, or I would check that email, or I would have a conversation with someone right nearby. I would do anything I could to just avoid picking up that phone. What I was really doing was waiting to get motivated. And I think what most of us have discovered is that when we wait to get motivated, it never comes. What we need to do is just pick up the phone. The most successful people, regardless of whatever their profession is or whatever they're great at, the most successful people don't wait for that motivation. They just get going. They don't have to be in the mood to do it. They just do it. So just pick up the phone. Number 2, set a daily dial goal. I cannot tell you how many salespeople I know who will block out, let's say, an hour of time to make calls, but within that hour, they really have no specific goal of how many calls they actually want to make. And when I say calls, I mean literally dials, right? How many phone numbers do you dial? And again, the reason that we even track dials in the first place as salespeople is because that's really the only thing that we can actually control, right? We can control, of course, how much time we allot to making calls. The problem is when we only focus on how much time we allot, we could end up making 5 calls in an hour because we're dilly-dallying throughout taking our time, just going really slowly. But when we track the number of dials that we're making, that's something that we can truly control. What I find is, of course, it depends on what you're selling and whom you're selling to. But most salespeople are capable of making anywhere between 15 and about 30 dials an hour. And that, of course, assumes that most people don't pick up. Maybe a couple people actually do pick up. But throughout that time, what we're doing is we're really committing to the number of dials as opposed to the amount of time. So in my schedule, if I'm to say to block out an hour, what I'd really do is instead I would say, my daily goal is going to be, let's say, 20 dials today. Other people, it may be 100 dials. But focus on the number of dials and not the amount of time. Because ultimately, the number of dials you make is going to connect directly to the number of appointments you set, the number of sales you make, and thus what you actually make at the end of the year. Number 3, make it a game. So often, salespeople think of the rejection that exists in our space, and as a result, they get really discouraged. But the reality is that when we pick up the phone and we call someone, and they're not excited to hear from us, in fact, they are annoyed by us, and they curse at us, or they say something really mean, or they just hang up the phone, or they politely get off, but we know that they're just trying to get rid of us. Most people, unfortunately, are taking that rejection very seriously. But it's not serious. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know your family. They don't know anything about you. Sales is a game. Imagine if every time a little kid plays soccer, community league soccer, and every time they lose, they're crying and they're pouting. The reason that that's happening, of course, is because they're taking it more seriously than it should be. And that exact same thing happens to us as salespeople. We can't take this stuff that seriously. I remember when I was first learning to make dials, and I was having good mentorship. And what I would do is if someone was getting rude or snippy with me on the phone, I'd get playful. I would really make it a game. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it would necessarily turn that specific call or interaction into something more positive. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But what it did is it made it so that way every rejection just rolls right off my back. It doesn't matter. Make it a game. Number 4, call really early and really late. This is such a simple tip, but it is so incredibly effective. Let me ask you a question. When do you think the majority of salespeople are making their dials during the course of the day? If you said something like between 10 and 11:30 or 1 and 3 o'clock, then you're right. The majority of calls from salespeople are made in those times. It's often in a lot of organizations that is call time, right? That 10 o'clock or so to 11:30 or in the early afternoon. The problem is that this is when most salespeople are making calls. And as a result, not only are prospects receiving more sales calls during that time, but it also just happens to be the time when they're really, really busy. And so what I challenge you to think about is, when can you be making calls when prospects are both not being bombarded by other salespeople and when they're not really busy? And the reality is that if you're calling really early in the morning or really late in the afternoon or even evening, your prospects, who are typically higher level folks who are true decision makers, they're going to be in the office. Typical CEO gets in the office at around 6:30 in the morning. They don't typically leave till 8 o'clock at night. And yet, when is the gatekeeper there? The gatekeeper is there from 8:30 to 5:30. So call outside of those hours, and you're going to get through the gatekeeper. You're going to be associated with a lot less clutter. And of course, you're more likely to catch them when they're not bombarded by people walking into their office and overwhelmed. Call early and call late. Number 5, avoid the sales voice. Now, this is so pervasive in our industry, where you ask a salesperson, do you use an overly enthusiastic voice when you make calls? And they typically say, no, I sound normal. And then I listen to them make a call, and they sound something like this. Hey, George, Mark Wayshak calling. How are you today? If you were the prospect receiving that call, what do you immediately assume about the person making that call? That they're a salesperson. What I have discovered is that salespeople, when we go into making calls, they're very typically going to increase the cadence or the pace of their speech, so they're going to speak more quickly, and they're going to go up a couple of octaves. And what we want to do is avoid that completely, because we don't want people, when they pick up the phone, to assume that we're a salesperson. We want them to think, this just sounds like a normal, genuine person. Avoid that sales voice. Lower the tempo, lower the pace. And by the way, one of the best things that we can do to really make sure that we're not using the sales voice is to just record your own voice during calls. This is really simple. So you don't have to record the whole call. So there's no disclosure issues. Because what you're going to do is you're just going to use your iPhone or your Android, and I just want you to use this audio recorder to record just the sound of your voice. So you don't actually have to hear what's going on in the call. You're just hearing your own voice. I guarantee you're going to find is that you are using a pace and a cadence that is not entirely natural. Instead, what I want you to sound more like is just low-key and genuine. Hey, George, Mark Wayshak calling. Did I catch you in the middle of something there? That's the kind of pace and volume that I want to hear from you. Avoid the sales voice. Number 6, pattern interrupt. This is one of, I would argue, the most powerful concepts in selling, and it's something that people just don't spend enough time to think about. And so my question to you is, what do the first 6 or so seconds of your typical sales interaction sound like? Let's say it's a phone call, because that's what we're talking about right now. What the first 6 or 7 seconds of your phone calls typically sound like? Most salespeople can't exactly answer that, right? We typically go more off the cuff in the opening, and then we may structure out what happens later on, but we're not really thinking about how are we starting that call. The data suggests that prospects are deciding whether they want to continue a call with us in the first 7 seconds. And so we need to fully map out what that sounds like. And that's where this idea of pattern interrupt comes in, because what we want to do is break the pattern. We want them, when they're picking up the phone, to suddenly wake up to something different. If you're starting your call with a typical, hey, George, Mark Wayshak calling, how are you today? You're typically going to turn that person off, and they're going to go right into their typical pattern, which is to treat you like a salesperson and try to get you off the phone. So, in fact, the role play that I just did a minute or two ago on the previous point is really pattern interrupt, because it's breaking what they expect. So what I challenge you to think about is how can you script the first 7 seconds in a way that they're not expecting. My approach would be something like this. Hey, George, Mark Wayshak calling. Did I catch you in the middle of something there? Now, time out for a second. I'm not going to completely analyze that because we don't have the time in this video, but what you'll notice is that it was a different approach from what they would have expected. I'm breaking the pattern. They expected me to be smooth and polished. I was actually slow and almost a little bit hesitant, right? And so they're thinking to themselves, is this a sales guy? Is it someone else? I don't know. Pattern interrupt. Number 7, have a contingency. Contingencies are one of my favorite and most fun things in sales. And what I find is that it's actually pretty ninja. Most salespeople, when I teach them contingencies, they get really uncomfortable. And so let me explain what a contingency is, and then I'll give you some ideas. A contingency is when you call up a prospect, and they're really busy, and they're actually trying to get you off the phone in the first couple of seconds of that call. What is your contingency? It's almost what you do. It's what's your plan B when plan A doesn't work. All right, so you call someone and you say, hey, George, Mark Wayshak calling. Did I catch you in the middle of something there? And the prospect returns with, actually, yeah, you did. I don't have time right now. Can you call me back in a week? Now, what do you do at that point? Contingencies are that plan B, and these take some guts. They really take the ability to be bold and step out there. Typical salesperson is just going to say, oh, okay, of course, yeah, thank you so much, right? Get off the phone. But the ninjas, the sales ninjas, are going to have that contingency in place. So my contingency in that particular situation might be something like, you know what, George, I really appreciate your saying that. Would it be okay if I just took 30 seconds, told you why I was calling, and then we can decide if it makes sense to hang up. Does that sound okay? Boom, contingency. Now, is that going to work all the time? No. But I have a couple of contingencies in a row that I would put together in a call to make sure that I'm ultimately at least getting the first 30 seconds of the call. And those work most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. Have a contingency. Number 8, get them talking. Now, we don't have time in this video to lay out the entire script of a call. In fact, there are other videos that I've put together laying out really what that script should look like. But getting them talking is so important to a sales call, because I want you to imagine what the typical prospect is experiencing during the receiving end of a sales call, right? They answer the phone, and the salesperson on the other end is saying, hey, how are you doing? You know, I want to tell you about my company, ABC. We've got this incredible product. What do you think that prospect is doing while they're on the phone? And let's say they have their phone to their shoulder, and they're on the phone. They're going back, because they've just determined this is a sales call. They're going back into typing that email or reading that report that they were just looking at a second ago. And so they're letting the salesperson talk because of just being polite, but they're not engaged with what the salesperson is saying. So a truly effective salesperson is going to have something in their sales call that's going to engage the prospect in a conversation to get them talking. Because once me as the buyer or as the prospect is actually talking and engaged in the conversation, now it's really difficult for me to continue reading that report or writing that email. You need to engage them in the conversation, suck them in so you get them talking. So you want to have questions in your calls that, sound something like, does that make any sense based on what I'm saying? Or does that ring true to you? right? We're sucking them into the conversation. Get them talking. Number 9, always closing for the next step. Always closing for the next step. Now, research from one of my favorite organizations, Gong.io, who uses artificial intelligence to analyze sales conversations and compares the conversations that really work versus those that don't. And what they found is that effective sales conversations, the salespeople are spending significantly more time discussing next steps. Now, I think we always knew this instinctually, but it's the first time that we actually know from a specific data perspective that next steps are so important. And what next steps means is that we never are in the business of saying, oh, how about I call you back in a week? Instead, George, do you have your calendar out? Let's schedule a next step to make sure that we avoid that back and forth and that we get each other on the next call where we can review what we discussed today. Always closing for that next step. So in an initial prospecting call, what you're closing for is typically that next scheduled meeting, right? Whether it's face-to-face or WebEx or by phone, whatever it is. What we want to do is always be closing for the next step. So there's never a point in the sales process where we have that wishy-washy, I'm not really sure what's coming up next. Always closing for that next step. So there are 9 really easy phone sales tips. I want to hear from you. Which of these ideas did you find most useful? Be sure to share below in the comments section to get involved in the conversation. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an awesome free ebook on 25 tips to crush your sales goals. Just click right here to get it instantly. Seriously, just click right here. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking right here, my little face, to get access to a new video just like this one each and every week.
All right, so there's Mark Wayshak. Again, that's a guy that I found on YouTube that does an awesome job with sales videos. And I hope you take advantage. Just jump on there and type in Mark Wayshak, and he should pop up as far as sales tips. But really great stuff that I've come across that seems to really help those, even on the team. Really, anybody that's on the phone, or picking up the phone, this could really help you out in the field. So, last thing I'll leave you with this morning, because we did go a little bit over time, is who can I call, Justin? Who can I jump on the phone and call? If you're working with physicians, you can call your doctor's offices. You can call your doctors. If you have obviously your client list, you want to start calling your clients. And even though they're your clients, you still want to work them for referrals. And so these are ways that your goal, your next step, is to ask for referrals. Or maybe you have a list of lost clients that disenrolled, and you want to get them back on, whatever product it is. A lot of you have done life insurance or ACA business, whatever. Let them know what you're doing now. And those of you that are doing Medicare, yes, we can call people that are turning 65 and offer them a supplement quote. And so if you're doing supplements, yes, you can do those outbound calls. So those are just a few examples on things we can do to jump on the phone and start calling. But there's the one thing that really worked for me, and I took from the call that he did, was what is that number? What is that? How many dials are you actually doing a day? And that's the metric that you need to use when you're going out in the world, right? Because that's the only thing we can control. And my goal was 50 phone calls a day, and that is very difficult to do. It is not easy, and if you've ever tried to do 50 phone calls a day, and I'm talking manually on your cell phone, sitting there and dialing 50 phone calls, is not an easy task. Now, we've got a dialer that can breeze through that very, very quickly, but physically dialing and talking to, making those 50 dials a day is an extraordinary task. And if you really want to bump your numbers up, that's the way to do it. So, last thing here, how do I make 50 phone calls? I don't even have 50 clients. Well, yes, you can call and cold call doctor's offices or food banks or churches or anywhere where you can set up a table, a supermarket, pharmacy. I mean, there's so many different places that you can call to get activity. So it's not just cold calling clients or calling clients or lost clients or T65s. I mean, you can actually call places or associates. You know, we just talked about CenterWell. You can call every single center and ask if you can go in and meet the staff. I mean, there's so many different ideas. And if you're lost for those ideas, please let us know, because we are here to help you and ensure that you're successful. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take everyone off mute. So if you have any questions this morning for myself or the team, please let me know. All right, any questions this morning?
I sent you a deck page for something I need to get coverage on. It's an old deck page. I'm going to be calling them to get a new one, but at least you have.
Okay, so no questions. I think everyone's on the call.
Hello.
If you have anything that you need help with, please remember that we're here. Our phones are live Monday through Friday, 844-696-8975.
Justin.
Thank you guys for being on the call this morning. We really appreciate it.
Justin.